Here at 2FM Brekkie. I love that song, Hootie and the Blowfish. Only want to be with you. A very good morning now to our Dubbo region there, Matthew Dickinson. How was your weekend?
Very good. That song was for me, is it? You only want to be talking to me. Is that the story?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about talking with you, Matt. Now, I know we were just talking quickly off air. Due to the flooding and that sort of thing, sporting facilities reopened. That was, I guess, last Thursday. So that continues. How did the fields hold up to all this big rain event that we had?
Yeah, our fields in general are pretty good. They can hold up to fairly high levels of rain. Obviously, our staff monitor that fairly closely because they might be able to hold up to the rain, but then if you go and put thousands of kids on them and run around on them and play sport on them, then obviously sometimes they get damaged. So we really do try and protect those long term. And the public are generally very understanding. I even remember back when my kids were playing soccer or even playing netball, not that you really damage the netball fields during rain events, but you sometimes had to cancel sport because of various rain events that would occur. And again, the public are pretty understanding. We need to protect those assets for the long term, and that's really the objective when we do cancel or postpone those sporting events. But again, they're all back up and running now. The rain stopped, so everything's back to normal, and the sporting fields are all in great condition.
Yeah, good news. Dubbo Shibble Bridge was cleared of debris on Friday. The handrails reinstated for reopening there on Friday as well. But your Banshee Bridge, better known as the Tamworth Street Footbridge, it's going to remain closed. Unfortunately, the council staff couldn't get to it due to the awful flood conditions there to actually put those handrails down.
Yeah, it was an interesting scenario there. We did the Tamworth Street Bridge first. That was built before the Shibble Bridge, and that was in the days when we put them up, and we had the process that you had to go and unscrew all the bolts along the side when there was a flood event because we knew there'd be flood events, and that's worked successfully in the past. But there were a couple of things with this. This flood came up a bit unexpected, and it was a bit too quick for our staff to get down there, and it was going to be dangerous if our staff were down there, so we had to leave those handrails up. By the time we built the Shibble Bridge, then that was actually a different design where there were, rather than just normal bolts you had to undo, there were shear bolts. And so when the pressure built up enough, those sides basically collapsed down through the pressure of the water that was coming down. So they were self-collapsing, if you like. I'm not sure if that's the exact term for it, but you can understand what I'm meaning. So they all collapsed as they should have done. And then once the floodwaters receded, it was an easy process to go and stand those back up, make sure they're right, put some new shear bolts in, and away you go. And so I actually went down and had an inspection on that yesterday, and there's a little bit of dirt and mud on the actual deck of the bridge, but that'll wipe away as people start using it and as we get a bit of rain or wind blowing along there. So that's all fine now. So that's all in great condition and ready to go. The Tamworth Street one, even on Saturday, because Parkrun had their 7th anniversary on Saturday, so we were very keen to try and get it back up and running by Saturday, but the bridge deck itself was up above the water, but as you run across that, if you imagine that bridge on the western side of it, it dips down, so it was still underwater, the entrance of it, whereas the bridge was actually out of the water. So you couldn't use it, but there was some damage to those rails as well. And one of the things I've asked for is, can we, now that we've got to replace those rails or do some work on those rails, can we do the same design as the Shibble Bridge where they can be self-collapsing rather than actually have to manually take those bolts out? So staff will investigate that. It'll be a few weeks though, so don't expect to go across that bridge for a few weeks. And Parkrun did a great job on Saturday. They actually re-engineered their course so they could still have their 7th anniversary, still run that event. Lots of keen parkrunners were down there. I was lucky enough to go down there and say hello to a few of those people and congratulate.
I saw your photo on Facebook, actually,
yeah,
which was great.
There you go.
Did they extend the parkrun because that cake would have put extra kilos on?
They probably should have, because the cake did look very nice. I didn't get a chance to have any. I thought I'd leave it to the other people there, but it's great to see so many people there. And the organisers there just did a new course and they still had everyone run their 5 kilometres, so well done to them. But yeah, it's a few weeks away before we'll get that Tamworth Street Bridge up and running again.
All right, so the outcome is yes, you can redesign these handrails?
I'm not sure. No, look, again, what I've said to our staff, can we do that? Yeah. Obviously, priorities at the moment are getting some other things back up and running. We'll investigate that and see if we can do that. It may be too expensive to do that. It may be something that the bridge design itself doesn't lend itself to that, but we'll look at that to see if there's a better way to do that now that there's a bit of damage to those rails.
And this morning you're going to take media through the Dubbo Water Treatment Plant. How are we going with this water boil alert? We're still in the middle of things at the moment. Yeah,
we'll talk more about that later on this morning, but the water treatment plant is producing water at the correct level, the 0.5 NTU, nephelometric turbidity units is the NTU stands for, And so we're below the recommended level of 0.5 there at the moment. But unfortunately, because we had to put some of the water that was above that level into our reservoirs across the network, it'll still take a number of days before we can get to the point where some parts of Dubbo will have that bore water alert lifted. But we'll go through that in more detail this morning. We're still crunching some final numbers because you can imagine you've got reservoirs with some water in it. You mix in a little bit of water that's above that 0.5 NTU. Then you start putting clean water back in there again. What dilution level do you need to get to in those reservoirs before we can actually say to the public, it's safe? And that's the real issue here. It's inconvenient. I actually find cleaning my teeth is the most inconvenient part of the bore water alert. It's really clumsy cleaning my teeth with a bottle of, or a glass of water beside the basin there. But we'd rather that than have people potentially, and again, it's low risk, but potentially catch crypto, someone that's immunocompetent. That can be unpleasant. That can mean that we might get a bit of diarrhea or we might get a bit of a cough. But if you're immunocompromised, you can be very sick. And that can be someone that's frail or old, or maybe they're just a little bit sick in other areas. And then suddenly that immunocompromised state means they can become very sick from crypto. So safety is obviously the number one issue. Even though it's a bit inconvenient at the moment, it's all about the safety of our residents.
And Matt, I've got to admit that, it took me a couple of days to sort of get into it because I was still brushing my teeth with running it under the normal tap water. Now, you don't have to actually drink that to catch this, do you? It just can absorb through the mouth.
Well, once you put it in your mouth, so if you're cleaning your teeth, you're putting water in your mouth, and there can be enough of that in there. If there are some spores of crypto in that water that comes out, then that can be enough that you can ingest some of that, because it's pretty hard to say that you clean your teeth and rinse your mouth out and not a single drop of water goes down into your stomach. So the safest thing to do is, again, just boil that water, have it beside there. I know what I've been doing is just boiling some water, putting it in some water bottles, sitting out there, and so you've got some water that you put in the fridge then or put beside the basin. So yes, it's all a bit inconvenient and a bit clumsy, but that's better than actually end up a couple of days with some diarrhea or some constant coughing.
Well, Kleenex might enjoy both of us then, if that's the case, because I heard the other day that you, like me in the shower, you don't realise how much water goes in your mouth.
No, the first thing I did was the first morning of the boil water alert, I jumped in, I'd been out for a bike ride, I jumped in the shower and opened my mouth to have a drink, and wait, I can't do that. So it is one of those things that you just do get in those habits. The water that we have coming out of the taps is fine for showering as long as we don't drink it, fine for washing our dishes, fine for washing our clothes. We just don't want to do anything that's going to go in our mouth. Ice is the tricky one, making sure that your ice hasn't been, you don't use your normal water to create ice, because crypto is killed below about negative 20 degrees Celsius and above about 60 degrees Celsius, hence the boil water status. If you're going to put ice in your fridge, then you should boil the water first, or not, you don't put ice in the fridge if you're going to make ice. Boil the water first and put that in your ice trays and put that in the fridge. And interestingly enough, there's a little scientific fact about the Mpemba effect, that if you actually boil water and put it in the fridge, it actually freezes faster than water from the tap from room temperature, which sounds completely illogical and crazy, but look up the Mpemba effect and you'll learn more about that.
So all of those people that have their ice piped in through the water outlet, well, they're all buggered then by the sounds.
Well, if you've got that automatic ice that comes through because you've got your water coming through into your fridge automatically piped through, then absolutely you've got to be careful of that, because you can easily forget about that. Now, there are some filters. I know some people have got zip devices, the devices that have got that automatic boiling water, for example. And if you have a look on those, some of those filters on a zip device, I know, will actually remove crypto. If they're a 0.2 micron filter, they'll actually remove crypto from the water. And I'd actually have a look, if some people have got those filters in their fridge, I'd look to see whether it actually says that it removes crypto. Not all of them do. So you can't just rely on filtered water being all okay and everything will be removed, because obviously part of that is looking at the manufacturer specifications as to whether or not it will remove crypto. And then how old is your filter? Is it an out-of-date filter? Because lots of people have those filters, but they haven't been replaced for years.
Yeah, that's it. All right. You've mentioned to me off air you've got a citizenship ceremony coming up, and you do quite a number of these through the year.
Yeah, we do. We do them probably every 2 months at the moment. It's incredibly popular for people to want to come to this nation, obviously. But what I love about that is they want to come to this nation, and out of all the places in all the country they could choose, they choose Dubbo. Now, I normally hear it's because of the radio station, Zoo FM, that they want to come to Dubbo, and maybe the mayor. That's the two claims that I make. But the reality is it's a great place to move to.
Hearing as well.
That's right. It's a great place to move to. Why wouldn't they want to be here? But it's actually a really uplifting experience when you get these people that have said, and I like to talk to them afterwards, that said, I was in whatever country. They might have been in England or New Zealand or India or Nepal or Bangladesh, wherever they might have been, and they tell their story about why they came here. I love all those individual stories. So it's actually really uplifting and makes you feel good about living here in the first place because, wow, I live at a pace that people from around the world want to move to. Normally we'll have 20, 30 people that become citizens and they're really excited. They've got friends and family. Anyone can come along and watch a citizenship ceremony. So they've got friends and family along. They're all really excited for them. So, yeah, I really enjoy citizenship ceremonies. One of the really exciting things I get to do as mayor.
Where do you do that? Council chambers?
Yeah, that's usually, depending on how many people we've got, we'll do it at the Dubbo Regional Theatre and Convention Centre, or we will do it at the council chambers. This Thursday, this one in particular, is actually at the Dubbo Regional Theatre and Convention Centre because we've got so many that we're doing. So that's at 11 o'clock Thursday. Anyone wants to come along, watch the ceremony. Then we normally have a few things afterwards, like some Vegemite on bread or some sayo or arrowroot biscuits or some Lamingtons, a few things like that to celebrate afterwards.
Probably one way to make them go home to not this home, their original home, giving them that sort of thing. The Vegemite. Hey, tour of correctional facility. You mentioned to this, so is this where we get to go and have a look behind the scenes?
No, not this is actually councillors. One of the thing about being a councillor is you really need to be aware of what's in your community. And we know the things that are involved with council, or the things that we're responsible for, but there are other things that are non-council facilities that it's important for us to know about. So last week, for example, we went through a tour on the Western Cancer Centre, and it's fantastic to see those wonderful facilities we've got there now. People from the region are now being treated here in Dubbo for various cancers they used to have to go to Sydney for, and what they ended up doing was not being treated at all. So that's fantastic. So that was great for councillors to see that. This week, this Wednesday, we've actually got a tour through the correctional centre. I'm hoping they're letting all the councillors out that all go in, so hopefully we're all okay to come back out. We'll do a head count before we go in and make sure we all come back out again. But that's an important facility for our economy. That's an important facility overall for this region. So I think it's worthwhile for councillors to go through and see exactly what's there and get an understanding of it. And I think that's part of the job of being a councillor, understanding what's in our community, not just the council facilities that are in our community.
Absolutely. I'm out of time. Thank you. Dubbo Region Mayor Matthew Dickerson, of course, taking the media through from 10 o'clock, so we'll find out more later on today when that's all reported as well. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. We'll catch up in a fortnight.
Thank you, Brett.